Hey everybody, it's Glenn here, and welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast. As you may have suspected, this is what we call a special episode, a little bit of a bonus for you. Everybody's been so good to me that I wanted to give you all a little bit more love. Also, perhaps a little shameless self-promotion, because I have a great Facebook Live event coming up right now with Anthony Melchiorri. Of course, he's of Hotel Impossible and Extreme Hotels fame. And if you noticed, we did a podcast with him on September 29th, and we had so much fun doing it that we actually stopped. And then we did an entire other show, which until now has been held in a secret room, not yet to be revealed. But today, we shall be revealing it. And I wanted to tie it into the fact that we're doing this event at BDNY November 13th at 2 p.m. So if you're at BDNY, you can see it live and in person. And if you happen to be online, you could watch it through Facebook Live on Anthony Melchiorri's page. And I'm trying to work on getting a feed simultaneously on the No Vacancy page as well. But I'll be sending out lots of tweets and all of that kind of stuff in anticipation of this event. Very excited. November 13th. 2 p.m. If you're at BDNY, it's the Black Carpet Live area, level 2 in the concourse lobby. And if you're online, check us out on Facebook. Just look up Anthony Melchiorri's page, and you're going to see us there live. Can't wait. You're going to be able to ask us any questions you want. All about his show, all about the hotel business, all about why he's foolish enough to want to partner with me. Whatever it is you want to talk about, it's all up for grabs. So anyway, sit back and enjoy this extra special conversation that I had with Anthony Melchiorri.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast. I, of course, am Glenn Hausman. We got a little bit of a bonus episode because I had the chance to speak with Anthony Melchiorri recently all about the upcoming seasons of Extreme Hotels and Hotel Impossible. And we got into such a great conversation about it. I didn't have a chance to talk about any of these hardcore hospitality issues that each and every one of us need to think about. So I have Mr. Anthony Melchiorri back with us today. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me. Great. I'm doing wonderful.
All right. So I wanted to just take a few minutes here and talk about some of the big issues that we're seeing in hospitality and how you think hoteliers should start to deal with it. What I'm seeing is, we're at the top of that industry cycle, as people like to say, and people like to, say, oh, we're in the 8th inning of a baseball game and all that kind of foolishness. But the fact is, consumer behavior continues to shift. Fundamentals continues to shift. I want to know what kind of advice that you have to keep hoteliers sharp no matter what the conditions are out there in the marketplace.
We keep going back as an industry every 5 years, 10 years, and we always say, I've been doing this over 30 years now, and I always remember every 5-10 years people saying, we got to get back to basics, right? Well, let's take ourselves as just human beings. The basics. You clean, you brush your teeth, you look nice, and you walk out of your house. That's never going to change. The basics are never going to change if you want to be a successful person. Right. So a hotel, if you want to be a successful person or a successful hotel, the basics will always be there. I say in my speeches, Abraham Maslow came up with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, 7 needs. And the first 2 needs, safety and security, is the foundation of the hospitality industry. Somehow we've gotten into Marvel and we've gotten into so much technology and so much worry that we forgot that people want a clean bed, hot water, and they want to feel safe, and they want to make sure that, God forbid, there's an emergency, there's a plan. Right. Those 2 basics, the foundation of our industry, you hit those every single day, and you will be successful. Period. End of story. One of the things that you're learning through all the hurricanes and the earthquakes and all the devastation that we're seeing in the world is whether you stayed in a 5-star hotel or you stayed in a 1-star hotel. At the end of the hurricane, all you want is a place to use the restroom, you want hot water, and you just want shelter, and you want your family to be safe. Whether you're staying at a 5-star resort or whether you're staying in a 1-star resort. So what I have always stayed true to, and I'm proud of myself, I'm proud of my team, that I have never, ever wavered off of the principles of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that the first 2 principles, safety and security, is our job. The hospitality, the service is all part of that. And as long as you're doing that, you're going to be successful. If you look at the top 10 hotels on TripAdvisor or online in New York City, they're not branded hotels. Okay?
Right.
They're typically boutique hotels that are run by general managers that were typically front desk agents and owners that have been in New York City for a long time and understand that there's a lot of money to be made if you pay your general manager well, you leave them alone, and you take care of your team, and you don't have to have a 5-star hotel, and you don't have to have even complimentary breakfast, but just keep it clean, keep it serviced properly, and make sure things work, and you will have a $400 average rate in New York City. That translates to every hotel.
Right. I think you're right about that. And you know what? It's one of those things, Anthony, that I think we all kind of forget, and we take for granted that we're going to have that. But I recall after the terrorist attacks on 9/11, I was flying and I missed the whole thing and suddenly found myself in Chicago with nothing to do. And all I wanted was a place to feel safe and secure at that time. And I was lucky enough to find a hotel that opened up their doors to me, took me in. Of course, I paid a fair rate, but really took care of my physical and spiritual needs almost at the same time. So I think you make a great point there.
We had a young lady who stayed with us at the Lucerne Hotel after Katrina, and she literally said, she sent me a letter years later. She found me at the Algonquin Hotel, and she wrote that we saved her life.
Wow.
That she literally wanted to check out because she lost everything. And my team, and we didn't realize the hardship she was going through. We knew she went through Katrina, but we were just doing what we do. And apparently, every moment she had a bad moment, we were there, and my team saved her life. And you know, that's what we do in the hospitality industry. We make you comfortable, we make you safe. Yes, you want to use technology, we want technology. You know, yes, I understand that. But, you know, the kiosks didn't work because people don't want to check themselves in. What works, what I've seen work, is iPads with a really good person at the front desk that helps you check in and walks you to your room. I like that. I walk in, you have an iPad, you check me in, you walk me into my room, I'm very happy. Or you walk me in the elevator, I'm very happy. You ask me to go in, and I have to take out my wallet, and I have to figure out what button to push and to check myself into a kiosk. I'm not interested.
Right. And
it didn't really work. As you see, it doesn't work. So technology should only be there, and you've heard a lot of people, a lot smarter than me, say this. Technology should only be there to enhance the service.
That's right.
It should not be there as, look how cool we are. When you go into the hotel in New York City and you see that big machine, that big robot that takes your luggage and then stores it for you, that's fun.
It is.
That's kitschy.
Yep.
That's cool. But is that really what we want in every hotel? No.
Right. It's one of those things. It's all about making that emotional connection to the property. And, as someone who speaks about these issues a lot on the road, and make sure that you hire me the year after Anthony speaks so I can get some business too, but make sure you hire him for your events as well. One of the things that I talk about, Anthony, is turning the transactional into the experiential, and how technology can either enable that to happen or can create unnecessary blockades between you and interacting with the guest in a right and righteous way.
Right. Listen, I was in the airplane hotel in Costa Rica, and it looked like an airplane. It was nice and it was comfortable and all that, and you got the real feel of this big C-23 that they stopped making in 1973 in the Air Force. And you got this, and being an Air Force guy, I really loved it. But you also had a waiter with an iPad, and so when the order went in, the order went in together, and when the order came out, it came out together. So that's a way where you're taking an experience and you're bringing me back to 1973 in the C-23, but you're also giving me hot food in an efficient time frame.
Right. So everything needs to be rooted in those things that are most precious to us as human beings, not necessarily, on what they're offering you, but the whole overall experience. Wow, that was the worst sentence I think I've ever said in my entire life. Thank goodness for editing there, Anthony. Although I may just leave this in to be infallible. Okay, but I got another question for you here. One of the problems that I see probably falls within the same category as well, but a lack of attention to detail. It's kind of like when you and I are on a hotel tour and the general manager or whomever it is walking us around sees that piece of paper and they bend over, pick it up, put it in their pocket. I I see sometimes a lack of attention to that detail. And I think if you're not looking at those little things, it opens you up to a lot larger problems in the future.
Well,
how do you see it?
I give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the phone with you before, and my daughter is a 10th grader in high school, and I saw the nurse was calling me from her high school. I immediately put you on hold and said, and I talked to my daughter. She got hit in the head with a ball. She's fine. She wanted to stay in school.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a volleyball. It was in her eye, but she was fine. And I immediately took care of that because the nurse from my daughter's school, trumps everything else I'm doing. Of course, today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, including you, my friend.
No, I get it. I get it. Although one day I hope to be more important to your daughter. I'm going to continue to suck up until then.
That was so. Well, if you pay for her college, then you will be.
Fair enough.
The thing that so that was my sense of urgency, right?
Right.
I bring the sense of urgency, and good hotel managers bring the sense of urgency, and
Mm-hmm.
just good entrepreneurs and good business people. That I literally, and anybody that knows me knows that I get a twitch if I see a little mark on a wall, or I see a little piece of paper in the hallway, or I see a light bulb out. I literally physically can't breathe or talk to anyone until that's taken care of. So the same urgency I have to taking a call from my daughter's nurse in school is I take when I'm walking past that little piece of paper on the floor. And I'll tell you why. Because we can talk about sense of urgency, we can talk about the little things in sense of detail. We can do that, right? But let's talk about it in this sense. You've spent $1 million on marketing. You spent maybe $50 million on building a hotel. You spent millions of dollars on building a team in uniforms and a whole marketing portfolio. And you're all sitting there rah, 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 rah in each other. And then all of a sudden the hotel opens and there's a mark on the floor, or there's a piece of paper on the floor. And that one person you just spent all this money to get into your hotel happens to be a little neurotic like myself, and like most people that I'm learning, because when I'm on airplanes, everybody's cleaning their tray tables nowadays.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden that piece of paper, that person says, okay, they immediately go into their computer and they go in their brain and they say, I spent $400 tonight to stay in this really nice hotel that everybody's talking about. And there's a piece of paper outside my room, or there's a room service tray outside my room that hasn't been picked up for 4 hours.
Yep.
Or there's a light bulb out, and I really can't see my phone because I'm half blind at the elevator landing. Okay? All those things, forget about that small things matter. All those things are sabotaging your marketing, is sabotaging your profitability, is sabotaging your ability to give raises, your ability to build another hotel, your ability to be a successful entrepreneur or a successful general manager. It is absolutely sabotaging yourself. I was at a hotel that recently that a gentleman, he's the president of the company, and he used to be my assistant.
Right.
And it just haphazardly happened. I was there with the show, and I had no idea he was running this place. And my producers asked him, what is it like to work with Anthony Melchiorri? Because we all worked with him on the show. We want to know what it's like to work in a hotel with him. And he said, as serious as a heart attack, looked at my producer and said, I learned more from him, but after working with him, I had post-traumatic stress disorder.
Really?
He wasn't kidding. He literally wasn't kidding. He said, I had to go, and I had to take a different job, and I had to go see a therapist. And he wasn't kidding.
Wow.
Okay, because everything matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm obsessive when it comes to running a hotel. Everything matters. What I learned from that, and he's still my friend and he still respects me, but what I learned from that was I was probably too intense. So that actually, as funny as it wasn't funny because I made the guy miserable.
Right.
Okay, and so I had to learn, and I'm learning how to be that attention to detail and be that one piece of paper on the floor can make my entire business go out of business. And still, I think I'm a friendly guy, and I think people like working for me, generally speaking. But there are those moments where the people that work directly for me, general managers, that sometimes I'm too hard because I'm obsessed with attention to detail, not for the sake of attention to detail, because I'm afraid that general manager is going to lose his job because we're going to go out of business, because people are going to talk bad about us on the internet, and we're all going to lose our business. So I'm always running a business like I'm going out of business. And that's what I try to instill in the younger people. Forget about the money. Forget about how big your office is. Is work your ass off. Don't worry about glory. Make it hurt. Over-deliver. and your hotel would be the number one in its market.
Yep.
So attention to detail isn't important today. Attention to detail has been important forever in our industry, in every industry. And it's what happens is when people look at the shiny ball, and they look at the beautiful marble, and they look at the beautiful penthouse, and they look at the great uniforms, and they get away from what's really important. And what's really important is that the person that's spending their money, whether they can afford it or whether they saved all year to get there, they deserve your attention and your attention to detail.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love it, and that comes through on the show. I think that what you've done is you've taken who you used to be and kind of transformed it into a very straightforward. This is what you have to do, combined with more of a building people up instead of kind of tearing them down kind of a format. At least that's what I've seen from the show, that inspires people, engages people, and gets people to see your passion, understand how important it is to running a successful business.
Well, somebody online did a review, I don't know which newspaper it was, and they said, they gave me the greatest compliment. Kind of what you just said. I built people up, and he said, he's the nice reality show guy that's really intense. Whereas, like, being intense and being driven doesn't make you an ass.
Right.
You can still be nice. You can still be respectful. But this is what I say. I said this I was at the Hilton Conference. I was honored enough to speak at a Hilton Conference out in California last week. Or maybe it was this week. No, it was last week. And this week just started. And, what I said to somebody in the audience asked me a question at the end. I do a question and answer. And they said, how do I motivate my team? And that's a question for the ages. I mean, everybody's been wanting that. I still think about that very often. And this is what I said. I said, my style is, as soon as I take over a company, I take everybody by the hand or the neck if I have to, and I put everybody at the edge. And I come up with goals that are unattainable in everybody's mind. But they're attainable. And I push everyone to the edge, and we stay there, and we hold hands at the edge. And we don't, and anybody goes over the edge, we grab them, we pull them back. But we're not 2 inches from the edge. We're on the edge, and we're all going to crash and burn because we just made promises to ourselves and to our ownership that we have to deliver on. And if we don't do it as a team and we don't do it on the edge, we're going to fail because there's such extreme goals. I don't know how to make, average goals. I mean, I just don't.
Right.
I want extreme goals, and I want extreme team players. And if people are more extreme or more extreme than me, I don't want them on my team because I don't like hanging out with people who are good at their jobs. I like hanging out with people who are better than me at their jobs and teach me how to be better and push me beyond my limits. That's who I want to hang out with. Being in extreme hotels and being with these entrepreneurs, I mean, I've learned more from these entrepreneurs than I've learned in years because every one of them is extreme.
Right. And they've all been extremely successful, which has allowed them to go ahead and follow this new passion that they have of creating extreme hotels and experiences, sometimes in the middle of nowhere.
And being extreme and being intense and having lofty goals doesn't mean you have to be mean. Matter of fact, it's the opposite of that. If you take people who are capable and who have really good goals for themselves and they have real confidence in themselves, the last thing you can do is be mean to them or talk down to them because they'll tell you to go screw yourself.
Right.
You have to be the best person you can be around those kind of people because they won't take your crap. They don't care if you have a TV show. They don't care if you have money. They don't care if you have leverage over them. They don't care about anything. They have self-respect. And if they have self-respect, they'll tell you to go scratch. So when you're setting those lofty goals and you're surrounded by such a great team, you have to be really careful to bring it every day at a very high level, or they will laugh you off out of the office. Those are the kind of people I want to hang out with. People who are going to tell me, exactly how they feel and get pissed off when I piss them off. Not people are going to take it because I'm the boss and they're afraid of getting fired. I like people who aren't afraid to get fired because those are the people that won't get fired because they're too good at what they do.
Right.
So to answer your question, attention to detail only comes when you have people that have pride. That's it. That's the answer.
Wow. So then it basically comes down to hiring for pride as opposed to skills, or what we always talk about is just the right personality. And I guess that prideful component falls within that right personality way, right?
Listen, are you hiring experience or are you hiring potential?
Mm-hmm.
I don't hire experience because most people that are experienced got their ass kicked so many times that they have bad habits.
Yeah.
I hire potential.
Mm-hmm.
I hire potential. I hired a kid at the Plaza Hotel 20 years ago. His name was Patrice. He worked at McDonald's for 7 years, and everybody thought I was crazy. He was the best bellman I've ever had in my life. And I talk about him a lot because after all these years, I still think about him because I gave this kid a chance, and this kid made me look like a superstar. And that is what life is about. It's about giving people. Matter of fact, I just wrote down a note the other day. I want to create another show, and it's about just that. It's about what do you want to do in life. It's about potential,
right? And
giving people the ability to do things that they wouldn't have had because they have the potential to do it. Anyway, it's just a thought in my brain right now. But really, Warren Buffett said something really interesting that I saw a biography that you may have seen recently, and he said this. He goes, "How great is America? America is the greatest country in the world, and we were great when we were only using part of our demographic."
Right.
For years, for 100 years, we have not honored female executives in our country.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, you're seeing female executives, run Fortune 500 companies and get the opportunity to really show that they're, that they have the power just as much, if not more power. And how great can this country be 50 years from now when we finally tapped into, a population that we really haven't in a real way? And that could be controversial, and people could say, well, that's not true. I thought that was fascinating. And I thought that was amazing. So when you tap into your team, whether they're young, whether they're from, a neighborhood that is deemed successful, or whether they're from a neighborhood that's not deemed successful, when you tap into potential of every walk of life, that's when your team, that's when your business, that's when you will be successful. When you isolate a certain demographic, you isolate a certain person because they don't have experience, but they have tremendous potential, shame on you. I was never on TV before. Apparently, I'm pretty good at it because I've been doing it for 8 years. If I didn't write my own show and kick in doors and force my way in, I wouldn't have a TV show. And then the audience has told me, hey, Anthony, we like what you do, and that's the greatest compliment in the world. But I didn't have experience. I had potential.
Right. So then how, in the hotel environment, then, how do you turn your potential into reality if you're at, just starting out and you're at more entry-level positions or have just gotten 1 or 2 promotions? Yeah. How do you do what you've done?
Well, 2 things. One, get away from toxic people. If your boss is toxic and you're making excuses for your boss and your boss is incompetent, get away. Go look for another job. I've done it early in my career. I got a promotion and my boss was disrespectful because I said this would come with a raise, and he yelled at me in the middle of a hotel in Times Square, and I literally put my I put my feelers out. You remember when New York Times Sunday edition when all those ads were there back 20 years ago? And I saw the night manager of the Plaza Hotel ad, and I applied and I got the job. And 2 weeks later, I gave him a termination, my 2 weeks, and I said, thank you very much. Have a nice day. And I did it in a professional manner, but I gave him the biggest middle finger in the world. By not only leaving, but leaving for my dream job working at the Plaza Hotel.
Right.
So I was a young manager. I had a successful career at a very early age. I was only 2 years in. I was getting a promotion, but my boss was an ass, and I walked away from him because I'd rather fail on my terms than succeed on his terms, and I walked away. So then I got the best job of my life, and then I continued my career. Stay away from toxic bosses and toxic people. Leave.
Yep.
Because what we do is we spend way too much time being around incompetent people that we think they're going to change, and they're not going to change because they're getting so much pressure from above them, vice presidents above them that are putting so much pressure on them, and they're incapable of handling that pressure, and then they put that pressure in a wrong way on you. I put pressure on people, but the pressure is goal-oriented. The pressure is, these are the things we must accomplish, and we're going to accomplish as a team. I don't do it out of insecurity, and I don't do it for my own a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really, as you can tell, I'm out of breath saying it. That is really my biggest takeaway from my career. Is as soon as I got away from toxic people, I just walked away from a deal, literally, that would have made me a lot of money. And I put a lot of energy and time in it and money in it. And I made a little bit of money, but I literally walked away in one phone call from this deal.
Wow.
And I walked away from a lot of money. And the person still texts me to this day. This is only like 4 months ago. And like, what happened? I was like, well, I didn't like the environment. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be partners with someone like that. And I'm not mad. I'm not, that actually story will be in my book because I want to tell
mm-hmm.
people about it. But I walked away from it, man. There's nothing worth happiness.
Well,
so young people that need to assert themselves without telling their boss to go scratch.
Right.
They need to find a better job, find an environment that honor their differences as opposed to keeps them down.
That's true. And I would argue that situation that you got out of was the smart thing to do. And instead of causing you a lot of pain and heartache for a perceived payday, something else is going to come along that'll probably be better. But you have to recognize, and I'm speaking to everybody, not you right now, that sometimes opportunity isn't what you need to look for. And sometimes when you give up something, it opens up other doors. It kind of goes to that, hey, you've quit, you've been fired, whatever it is, you feel like your life is over, but usually it's just the signal of better things to come. And if you get over that part of fear, then you're going to open yourself up for more success.
Yeah, and if I can, if we have another second,
of course.
I want to kind of expound on that. On the other side of that, if you're in a situation where your boss is kind of trying to help you, and you've been in 3 or 4 or 5 jobs where you're finding yourself miserable, and your boss is finding your work performance not acceptable, you're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so recognize that too. There's been times in my career where I haven't been the problem, and I know I haven't been the problem, and I walked away. And there's times in my career where I was the problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this isn't about him. This is about me. This is the environment I'm in, and I'm trying to change my environment, and it's not changeable. So suck it up, buttercup,
mm-hmm.
and just stick it out, learn what you can learn, and get out. And I've had to do that, and it was the worst job. I won't talk about it, but it was the worst job I've ever had, and it was the best job I've ever had, because I realized those 2 years I spent there, I learned more than I've learned in 10 years, but I didn't like my job.
Right.
But it was worth the pain because I was surrounded by people who were really smart. They weren't my cup of tea, and they really weren't the environment I wanted to be in, but I was uncomfortable for 2 years, and I'm a better person and real estate person and developer and asset manager and bigger picture person because of the 2 years I spent there. And so you have to understand and recognize when you're being disrespected and when you're just in an environment, okay, that's uncomfortable. Either you get out or you suck it up, you don't make any waves, and you learn from it, and then you leave.
Yeah.
On your terms. Try never to leave on someone else's terms. And when you get frustrated and you leave without a job or you leave out of frustration, you're leaving on their terms.
Right.
You're not leaving on your terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your terms would be what you did when you left the Plaza Hotel, finding another job and moving on when it's appropriate. And I think that this is a good time for everybody to realize that sometimes, you know what, you lose a job or you do bad in a job, and it is your fault. And you do have to take a self-assessment of what's going on and understand that we're all imperfect beings, and we must continue to try to get better every day and learn from our failures. And I got to tell you, sometimes you learn a lot more from failures than any possible success.
There was a kid at the Plaza Hotel.
Right.
I was a kid myself, and I fired him, and he came to my office. He was in civilian clothes after I had let him go, and
right.
He yelled at me, and he goes, "You can let me go, but you can't take my spirit." And I took his spirit, and I never, ever forgot that, because I learned more from that mistake. And I've become a better leader and I don't call myself a leader. I call myself a manager. If people want to call me a leader, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned more from that mistake, because he had the guts to look me in the eye and goes, "Listen, I wasn't good at my job." He said that to me. He goes, "You're right, but you took my spirit.
Right.
You have no right to talk," because I spoke to him in a way that wasn't appropriate. I was insecure. I was overwhelmed in my new position. And instead of being able to manage that situation, I was rude, probably. And I've learned a valuable lesson from that moment. One, he stood up for himself, and I had a lot of respect for him. And two, I was wrong. So you have to acknowledge being self-aware.
Yep.
Is the greatest gift you can give yourself.
Yep.
Is being self-aware and understanding. Like, I know when I'm sucking up all the air in an interview, like right now.
Yeah, well, you've been doing, I got to tell you, these 2 interviews that we've done has been great for me because I don't have to talk. You're just doing it yourself. It's awesome.
Right, but I love this platform because we're talking to hotel people. And you know, I'm fortunate enough to get on a lot of shows and doing interviews. But I love your podcast, and I love this because this is the heartbeat of our industry. And these are the people, and these are my peers, and these are the people. A lot of people, hopefully listening, have taught me, and I've worked for.
Yeah.
So I get really excited to talk to my core audience because they understand. You know, and the greatest gift we can give. You know, I'm doing a luncheon in 3 weeks to 60 Cornell undergrads in the middle of the next in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just because they asked me to do it.
Great.
The greatest gift we can give is knowledge, and I didn't realize I had knowledge until I was about 50.
Right. Yeah. Well, I still haven't figured it out. I'm just faking it and hoping nobody catches on that I have no idea what I'm doing here, Anthony. But I'm gonna, we'll keep it up. In the meantime, everybody, make sure you check out Extreme Hotels and Hotel Impossible, both on the Travel Channel, typically on Mondays, but all the time as well. I feel like whenever I turn it on, your shows are on that TV, and we got to keep it up. Any final words before we close out this segment?
Yeah. The final word is don't take crap for anyone. Believe in yourself, and just put one foot in front of the other, man, and it works out.
Yep. And then also, let me add to that, do your best every single day. The worst thing you could do for your career is just phoning it in or casting blame on others. Take responsibility, learn from your mistakes, and be successful. Anthony, great talking to you again. This is so much fun.
Great talking to you.
All right, take care. And I want to thank everybody for listening to the special bonus episode, and we'll be back, another couple days. I don't know when we'll be back, but thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.